Hello, hello. Mic check, mic check. Should be good. All right. Yeah, we're good. Right on. Hello, everyone. Sorry, I'm traveling, so the entourage is what it is. Just want to make sure that everything is working correctly. Okay, good. Should be fine. And you can see me good. Right on. All right. Let's get to it. So, hello, everyone, and welcome. Thank you for joining me today. So my name is Stan, as you probably know. I'm partner and client solution executive at Cleverance. And for whoever's joining or joining a little bit late, I'm really glad to have you here. So today's topic is one I get asked about almost every single week by clients, by prospects, and honestly by partners as well. It's the question of cheap barcode apps, why they look attractive at first, why so many companies choose them, and why so many of those same companies come back to us 6 months, 12 months, sometimes 2 years later, telling us the same story. So that story is what we're going to unpack today, not from a marketing angle, not to sell you anything, but generally from the operation side of the house. Because the real cost of a barcode application almost never shows up on the invoice. Before we dive into the topic, let me quickly introduce myself, as always, because I want you to know where all this is coming from. Let me go to the next slide here. Everything is working correctly. Good. I got something in the chat too. Okay, perfect. Yeah. All right. So, quick bit about me. I've spent more than 10 years working in warehouse and inventory management automation, hands-on, not just from a sales seat. I've been in the warehouses, as I've mentioned multiple times. I've worked as a picker before as well. As far as implementing solutions, got it on the shop floor, dealerships, parts, rooms, and a manufacturing line. So pretty much all across the board. Across those years, I've worked with wholesalers, dealerships, manufacturers, and e-commerce retailers. And what all of them have in common is that at some point, they had to make this exact decision. Do we go with a cheap app? Do we build something custom? Or do we invest in a real platform? My whole job, honestly, is helping businesses answer that question in a way they don't regret later. All right, that's me. Most of you probably would already know, but I wanted to have a quick recap. Now, let me walk you through where we're going in the next 45 minutes or so. Switch to the next slide. So here's how today's session is structured. We'll start with the low cost illusion, why cheap barcode apps look so appealing on day one. Then we'll dig into the hidden costs and business risks that show up on day two and every day after. From there, we shift into the constructive part, moving from simple scanning to what I call controlled execution. Then we'll talk about technology and architecture choices. So barcode, RFID, apps versus platforms. And then we'll walk through the implementation journey step by step. So you know what a real project actually looks like. After that, we'll talk about business value and how to select a platform that will still be serving you 3 years from now, not just, for a couple of days, as we were talking about. I'll share a real customer story from the UAE. And at the end of the session, everyone who's registered gets a free PDF guide, as always. And I'll tell you more about that near the close. So let's start at the very beginning with what I think is the most misunderstood idea in this whole space. Because most people, when they hear barcode software, they think of a scanning tool. And that's exactly where the problem starts. Look at this chain on the slide. Do I have the right slide? Yeah, good. Software choice leads to workflow quality. Workflow quality leads to data quality. Data quality leads to operational performance. And operational performance is what shows up in your business results. Every link matters, and every link is affected by the software you pick. Now, here's the thing. The price of that software is visible from day one. You see it on the quote, but the process friction, the little bit of extra work every operator does on every transaction because the software doesn't handle exceptions very well, that friction is invisible. It doesn't show up on any invoice. It shows up in overtime, in errors, in slower onboarding, in customer complaints. And when the software is weak, the work doesn't disappear. It just shifts. It shifts from the system onto your people. Your team ends up doing what the software should be doing. And once you have workarounds, those workarounds multiply across shifts, across locations, across roles, until they become permanent, invisible costs. So the right decision has to consider life cycle costs, not the invoice, but the total cost of running this thing for the next 3, 5, 7 years. And from my personal experience, most people, most business owners, they don't really think that much ahead. They just look at the pretty picture of the application, and but we'll get into that in a minute, more in detail. Now, as I was saying, if all of that is true, why do so many companies still pick the cheap option? It's not because they're careless. It's because the market makes this decision look much simpler than it actually is. So let me show you what I mean. Get to the next slide. There we go. Here's what happens in a typical evaluation. You go in the App Store, right? You download 3 or 4 apps, and they all pretty much do the same thing. They scan, they search, they submit in a 20-minute demo. They all look great. They all seem to work. But a demo is not a real operation. Real operations include exceptions, interruptions, damaged items, wrong barcodes, offline devices, staff turnover, shift changes, and integrations that break at 2 a.m. A demo cannot show you any of that. Demo success is not production resilience, and that gap is where the surprises live. And then there's an internal dynamic to be aware of. Procurement looks at this and sees a license, a line item, easy to compare on price. Operations, on the other hand, inherits the process that comes with that license. Those are two very different views of the same purchase, and they usually don't talk to each other until it's too late. So the app got picked because it looked simple and cheap. Now, let's talk about what actually happens after the purchase, because from my personal experience, that's where the real story starts. Sorry, the screen is shaking a little bit. I don't have the best setup here, but anyways. Now, am I on the right slide? Yeah, good. So the visible price, the license, the subscription, whatever the app costs, is almost always the smallest part of the economic picture. And this isn't theory. This is what we see with customers who come to us after trying the cheap route. They tell us the same thing: manual corrections and duplicate work. Someone in the office is rekeying the data because the app didn't push it correctly. ERP mismatches and has delayed updates. Physical stock stays on one thing, the ERP says another, and someone has to reconcile that at the end of the day. Support tickets and downtime and workarounds. So the operations manager has a WhatsApp group where they troubleshoot the app themselves because the vendor doesn't respond in a reasonable time. Then it gets worse. Custom scripts get built to patch things the app cannot do, and those scripts become permanent dependencies. Nobody knows how they work, but they can't be removed. And eventually, when the app just can't scale to a new site or a new SKU structure or a new workflow, the whole thing has to be replaced. New training, new devices, new integrations. All of that cost was invisible on day one. So if the license price is just the tip of the iceberg, what's underneath it? So let's actually name the categories of costs that most companies miss when they evaluate these tools. And let's go to the next one here. There we go. So when we sit down with the client and actually map out the total cost of ownership, we consistently find 5 buckets. Process friction, the small time penalty on every single transaction that nobody notices individually, but that adds up across thousands of scans a day, right? Rework and exception handling, also an important one. The work of finding and fixing mistakes after the fact, which is always more expensive than preventing them. And then integration maintenance. So every time the ERP is updated or a new supplier comes on board, someone has to patch the interface, and that never stops. Then there's operational risks. The cost of a wrong shipment, and a mispicked order, a compliance issue that could have been prevented. And finally, future replacement, because a cheap app has a lifespan, and when it ends, you're rebuilding. So these five together, in most cases, we see dwarf the license cost by a factor of 10 or more. So marketing, that's just what shows up when you actually do the math. So now let me show you how this actually plays out on the floor. Because when I say process friction, it sounds abstract, but it starts with something tiny, one missing check, and it snowballs from there. So watch this. Here's a real chain of events I've seen more times than I can count. Step one, the software doesn't validate at the moment of the scan. It just accepts what was scanned and moves on. That's a missing validation. It's a tiny gap. Step two, because there's no validation, the operator picks the wrong item or the wrong quantity or from the wrong location. It happens. People are fast, warehouses are noisy, and if the software doesn't catch it, it just slips through. Step number three, now, there's an inventory discrepancy, right? So now we got to that. Your system says you have 10 units of something, but physically you have 8, or the units are in the wrong bins. Step number four, eventually somebody notices this. So usually that's the customer or the ERP reconciliation report. Now you have an investigation, and the shipment gets delayed while someone figures out what happened. And the last steps, the worst one, the customer is unhappy. The finance team has to write off a stock adjustment, and management is asking why we can't just get this right. All of that from a single scan that wasn't properly validated. So you get the point. And when we look at where these cheap apps typically break first, where the cracks show up, there's a really consistent pattern. So let me lay it out side by side. On the left, you'll see the assumptions cheap apps are built on. On the right, you'll see the operational reality that they run into. And these two columns don't match. The app assumes one simple process, but real operations have multiple paths and constant exceptions. The app assumes constant connectivity, but real warehouses have dead zones, unstable networks, and sites where Wi-Fi is a luxury. The app assumes one location, but most of our customers grow into multiple sites with multiple user roles. The app assumes a static ERP, but ERPs get upgraded, migrated, replaced. Processes change every quarter, and the app assumes basic scanning is enough. But the moment you need governance, security, an audit trail, or role-based access, basic scanning isn't a solution. It's a liability. Every row in this slide is a real conversation I've had with a customer. And when 3 or 4 of these rows hit at once, which they'll, always eventually do, the cheap app just simply breaks. So, okay, that's the problem side. Spent about 10 minutes explaining what goes wrong, and I want to spend the next section on what right actually looks like. Because the answer isn't spend more money, because I've heard that multiple times as well. The answer is much more specific than that. It starts with a shift in how we think about what a scan is actually supposed to do. And let's take a look at that. There we go. So this one is one of my favorite slides, honestly, because it captures the whole shift in one image. On the left, we've got basic scanning. On the right, controlled execution. These are not the same thing, by the way, right? So let me explain that. With basic scanning, the operator decides the next step. The software is passive. It just captures the scan, and the human figures out what to do with it. Data gets checked later, maybe at the end of the shift, maybe never. Exceptions happen outside the application. Somebody has to call the office, sends a WhatsApp, writes a note, whatever. And the history of what happened is fragmented across paper, memory, and messaging apps, which is obviously not really good. With controlled execution, though, the software actually guides this whole sequence. The operator is supported, not left alone. Data is validated immediately, right at the scan. Exceptions are routed inside the workflow, not outside it. And every action, every touch is traceable. So if you want to know who did that, who did what, when, and why, you can answer that in 30 seconds. And when you move to controlled execution, the whole meaning of a scan changes entirely. It stops being just a data capture action and becomes something much more powerful. It becomes a decision point, which is very, very valuable. Think about what a scan should actually do. It shouldn't just record a number, it should trigger a whole set of things. It should identify them. Identify the item, the asset, or the location. That's the basic layer. But then it should validate quantity, status, ownership, sequence. Is this the right item? Is this the right quantity? Owned by the right customer? At the right step in the process? All of that should happen in the moment. Then it should guide the operator to the next action, tell them what to do next, not leave them guessing. It should capture evidence and exceptions along the way, a photo, a note, a reason code. And it should synchronize the result with business systems. So your ERP or accounting system is not looking at yesterday's picture of reality. When a scan does all of that, you're not scanning anymore, you're actually executing a process. So hopefully explain myself pretty clearly there. Now, not everyone is at the same starting point. Some of you are still on paper, and I get that. Others are already running mobile workflows. So before we go farther, it helps to know where you actually are on the maturity ladder and where you are headed next. Before I get into that, let me just get a sip of my water. Wonderful. So here's the ladder. 5 levels. Level 1 is manual. So paper, spreadsheets, whiteboards, still very common, especially in smaller operations. Level 2 is captured. You've got basic barcode transactions happening, but the software is passive, just like we talked about. Level 3 is guided. So mobile workflows with validation, which is where a lot of our customers land after the first year of working with us. Level 4 is connected, integrated, multi-process operations. We're receiving, picking, put away, replenishment, transfers, and returns are all running on the same platform, all talking to the ERP. This is where most Cleverance customers operate at this point. And level 5 is optimize, adaptive and analytics-driven execution, where the system is learning from telemetry, suggesting improvements, and adapting to conditions. That's the horizon. The important question isn't which level you're at, it's whether the tool you're using today can carry you to the next one. Because most cheap apps live at level 2, and they cannot cross the bridge to 3 or 4 without being replaced. And moving between those levels doesn't have to be a huge, terrifying project. In fact, the most successful transactions I've seen are layered, one step at a time in a specific order. Let me walk you through what that looks like. And that's going to be on the next slide. There we go. The idea is what you build capability in layers. You don't try to boil the ocean, but you also don't lose sight of where you're heading. Because if the layers don't fit together, you end up rebuilding. Start by stabilizing your data and your process rules. If your master data is a mess, no software can save you. We've talked about this multiple times. After that, you digitize the highest value workflows first. So receiving, picking, wherever the biggest pain lives. Then you integrate with your ERP, your accounting system, WMS, whatnot, and master data. Because a mobile app that doesn't talk to your system of record is an island. Then scale after all of that. Devices, users, roles, locations. And then finally, you optimize. So layers and analytics, add RFID where it makes sense, and start driving continuous improvement. I want you to notice the order. Nothing in this journey requires you to replace your ERP. Nothing requires you to blow up what you already have. You don't need to do that. It's actually an additive, but it does require choosing a foundation that can carry you all the way through. And speaking of the right technology, at the right layer, one of the most common questions I get is, should I be using barcodes, RFID, or both? So let's spend a minute on that because there's a lot of confusion in the market about it. And that's on the next slide. So barcode and RFID are not competitors. They're complements. Each has a purpose. Barcode gives you precise, one-at-a-time confirmation. It's low cost to implement. It gives strong operator control, and every scan is deliberate. That's exactly what you want at critical checkpoints. So picking, packing, receiving specific items. I would actually add here to the receiving as well. It's very important. Now, if we talk about RFID, it gives you a fast bulk identification. You can read dozens or hundreds of tags at once without a line of sight, which is amazing for high volume visibility. So inventory counts, gate reads, asset movement. But RFID is not always more accurate. It's differently accurate, and it costs more per tag. That's just the reality of it. So the right answer for most customers is hybrid. So you match the technology at to each step. Use RFID where speed matters. Use barcode where confirmation matters, and high accuracy, and let the platform coordinate both. That gives you balanced cost and control, instead of forcing everything through one technology and paying for it either in speed or in dollars. Okay, so we've talked about controlled execution. We've talked about the maturity journey. We've talked about the technology. Now, let's zoom in on the software itself. What should a real mobile workflow actually do? Not in theory, but in the operator's hand, because that's the most important part, because that's the person who's actually using the system. And I have 6 things here. And these are the things that separate a real workflow from a scanning app pretending to be one. Trigger and identify. The scan starts something, and the system knows exactly what it's looking at. Validate business rules. Is this action allowed right now by this user in this context? Guide the next action. The operator doesn't have to think about what comes next. The workflow just tells them. Confirm and synchronize. The result goes to the ERP or accounting system, WMS, in real time, not at the end of the day. Then you route exceptions. When something is off, the workflow handles it inside the system, not by pushing the problem to somebody's phone. And last one, record the complete audit trail. Every action, every user, every timestamp, every reason, code. When all 6 of these are present, you have a real workflow. Miss any one of them, and you're back to hoping your operators fill the gap. But even the best mobile workflow is only half the picture, because if that workflow lives in isolation, if it doesn't connect properly to your system of record, you've just built a really nice island. So let me show you why that matters. A scalable solution has 3 separated layers, and this separation is crucial. The user experience, so what the operator sees and touches on the device, the workflow logic, the rules, the validation, the routing, and the enterprise integration, how it talks to your ERP, WMS, master data, security, and analytics. When these layers are separated properly, you can change one without breaking the others. You can upgrade your ERP without rewriting your mobile workflows. You can change how a pick and process runs without touching integration. That's what makes a system sustainable. Cheap apps collapse all 3 layers into one blob of code, which is fine, right? Until the day you need to change something. And that day always comes. Which brings us to one of the most important choices in this whole space. And it's a choice of a lot of companies don't even realize that they're making. Are you buying an app, or are you buying a platform or a full solution? Three options on the market, really. A low-cost utility app, fast to start, inexpensive, and honestly great for a single narrow use case. But the range of what it can do is limited, and it stops there. A custom application tailored to exactly what you need, which sounds great, but the ownership and maintenance burden is pretty high. Every change is a project. Every new requirement is a code from a developer. And an enterprise mobile platform has reusable workflows, governance, integration, security, scalability. It does require a structured implementation, which we'll talk about next, but once it's in place, it grows with your business instead of holding it back. The mistake most companies make is choosing option one because it's cheap, and then 5 years later, realizing they've spent more on workarounds and replacement than option three would have cost from the start. So, how do you evaluate one of these platforms? What separates the ones that will still be serving you in 5 years from the ones that look great in the demo, but fall over in production? Here's what it looks like. 5 things. Every one of them is more important than the price on the quote. Workflow configuration and exception handling. Can the platform handle your real processes, or does it force you to fit their template? Barcode, RFID, device, and offline support. Is it flexible across hardware, and does it actually keep working when the network drops? Then ERP integration and data integrity. Can it talk cleanly to your system of record without duct tape and a prayer? Then we have security, auditability, and administration for compliance, for governance, for the audit that will eventually happen. And then lastly, multi-site scalability. So upgrades, support. Can it grow with you? And is somebody there when things go wrong? Um, these are the questions I would ask in my evaluation, and I would ask them before I ask about price. Because if the answers are weak on these five, realistically, the price is irrelevant. So now, once we've made the platform choice, the next question is how do we actually implement this without disrupting the business? Because a lot of companies get scared here, and it's pretty fair. But it's actually a very structured process, and I want to walk you through this. So we have 6 phases here. This is the roadmap we use with every serious project. So discover. We baseline the process, the data, the systems, and the value opportunity. We agree on what success actually means before we start. Then we design. So we design the workflows, the rules, the exception paths that we talked about, and the user experience together with your team. Then integrate. We hook up the data, the transactions, the security, and the monitoring. Then we pilot under realistic conditions with measurable criteria. We'll come back to this one in a second because pilots are where most projects quietly fail. Once the pilot succeeds, we scale. So locations, workflows, devices, users. And then finally, we optimize. Analytics-driven continuous improvement. This is not a 6-month blow everything up project. Most of our customers see meaningful value inside the first 8 to 12 weeks. And I want to spend a moment on pilots, as I was talking about. This is the phase where I see companies make the biggest mistake. And it's a mistake that's really easy to avoid once you know about it. So let me share that with you. So here's the mistake. Piloting the easiest demonstration. Picking the tidiest warehouse, the newest devices, the most cooperative team, the simplest SKUs, and calling that a pilot. You get where I'm going with this. It's not a pilot, it's a showcase. And when you scale from a showcase, everything breaks the moment you touch a real site, obviously. A real pilot uses representative users, representative devices, representative locations, and representative volumes. It runs on real master data and live integration paths, not a sandbox. It tests exceptions, offline work, and recovery procedures, the things that break in production. It sets KPI baselines before launch, so you can measure improvement honestly. And it has a clear go, no-go criteria, so you know when to scale and when to fix. Pilot the hardest thing you are going to run in production. If it works there, it will work everywhere. But even the best pilot is not enough on its own, because the biggest risk to any automation project isn't technical, it's adoption. If the operators don't use the system, none of this matters. So let's talk about that quickly. That's actually a really good point. Go to the slide. Okay, good. So adoption isn't a training issue. It's not a communication issue. It's a design issue. Users adopt systems that reduce decisions, ambiguity, and recovery effort. If the system makes their job easier, they use it. If it makes the job harder, they don't, no matter how many training sessions you run. So how do you get this right? Involve frontline employees early. I've said this multiple times, but it's a very key aspect of this whole thing, because they know exactly where the pain is. Minimize taps, typing, and unnecessary choices. Every extra tap is a rejection point. Train by role, task, and exception, not by feature list. Make support visible at the point of work, a help button that actually helps. And keep improving using feedback and telemetry. The workflow is never done. Do all of that, and adoption isn't a project, it's a byproduct. Now, over the years, I've seen a handful of mistakes that keep coming up. Patterns that create what I call automation debt. Let me name them out loud, because if you can't recognize them, you can actually avoid them. And I got 5 here. Each one starts as a decision that feels responsible or clever and ends up as a cost you cannot get out of. Number 1, choosing based on license price alone, just like we talked about earlier. It feels responsible in the moment, creates enormous downstream cost, right? Number 2, automating an undefined or broken process. So if your process is broken, automating it just makes the broken process run faster. I've talked about this many times, but it's very important. Number 3, underestimating integration and master data. This is the silent killer. Companies always underestimate how much work goes into making systems talk cleanly. Number 4, ignoring exceptions, offline work, and support ownership. You'll deal with all 3. The question is whether you plan for them or improvise. And number 5, scaling a showcase pilot before governance is ready. You launch fast, it works at one site, you roll it out to 20. Now, every site has invented its own version of the process. That's not scale, that's absolute chaos. The good news is all 5 of these mistakes have a positive mirror image. And when you flip them, you get a set of best practices that separate the projects that thrive from the projects that get quietly replaced. And let me show you what that looks like. There we go. And so it's good framing here. Designed for day 500, not day 1. Anybody can build something that looks great at launch. The question is whether it looks great at day 500. We take that number. After 500 days of exceptions, changes, upgrades, staff turnover, and business growth, what does day 500 design look like? Standardize the core process across sites. Configure legitimate local variation. Different sites do have real differences, and the system should absorb them without breaking. Validate data at the point of work. Keep ERP or WMS or accounting system as the governed system of record. The mobile layer executes, but the ERP owns the actual truth. Build in auditability, monitoring, and recovery from day 1. And govern devices, versions, roles, and changes, because if nobody owns those, chaos is the default in that case. These are the boring things that make automation last. Not glamorous, but this is the difference between a system you love and a system you're going to eventually replace. All right, so we've talked about the problem, the shift to controlled execution, the platform choice, the implementation, and the best practices. Now let's talk about the business side, how we actually measure whether this is working. because activity is not the same as actual value. This is one of the traps I see companies fall into. They measure scans. Terrible idea. Scans per hour, scans per shift, scans per employee. But scans is just a simple activity. They're not actual business value. What you actually want to track is inventory accuracy and transaction integrity. Is the physical world matching the digital one? Receiving, picking, and processing cycle time. How fast are we actually moving product through? Error, rework, and exception rates. How often do we have to redo something? Labor productivity and onboarding time. How quickly can a new hire become productive? And availability, synchronization, and user adoption. Is the system actually being used the way we designed it? These are the numbers that connect to the P&L. Scan counts don't. And when you track the right outcomes, you can also see where the actual financial return is coming from. Because ROI and warehouse automation isn't one lever, it's actually four. There we go. 4 buckets of value. Margin improvement, so labor productivity, fewer errors, less reward. Revenue protection, you don't lose customers because of wrong shipments, stockouts, or late deliveries. Working capital improvement, better inventory accuracy means you can carry less safety stock without losing service. And risk reduction, compliance, audit, and operational risk all go down. Any one of these alone justifies the investment. Together, they compound. And unlike a one-time cost saving, this return doesn't shrink. It grows as your business grows. So if you put all of this together, the controlled execution, the platform, the outcomes, the ROI, what's the future state we're actually building toward? What does great look like? And let me get into that. Am I on the right slide? Yeah, okay, good. Excuse me. The future state. So for the businesses we work with is what I call connected operations. It's a continuously controlled flow of physical work and digital data. One system, one truth. Every moment in the warehouse is digitally guided and validated. Barcode and RFID work together to get the right level of visibility for the right task. Exceptions appear before they become delays. Problems are surfaced in the moment, not discovered on a report at the end of the week. Your ERP reflects physical reality check, not lagging by a shift or a day. And new workflows evolve without replacing the foundation. You build on what you have instead of ripping it out. It's not a vision statement. That's what customers who did this right actually experienced today. All right, so we've covered a lot of ground. Let me pull it all together into one executive level takeaway. So you leave with the 5 things that matter most. So 5 things. If you take nothing else from this hour, take these. Evaluate lifetime costs, not the first invoice. Prioritize workflow depth, resilience, and integration. Those 3 matter more than any feature checkbox. Pilot under real operating conditions, no showcases. Measure business outcomes from day one, not scan volume. And choose a foundation that can scale with the business because you're going to be running this thing for years. These aren't Cleveran's talking points. This is just what separates the companies that get value from the automation compared to companies that keep replacing their tools. Now, with everything we've talked about, let's connect the strategy to the actual platform choice, because at some point you have to move from what we need to what we're actually buying. Here's how I think about the bridge from strategy to platform. There are 3 requirements, 3 pillars that the right platform has to satisfy. It has to be practical, meaning it fits how your team actually works today. It has to be scalable, meaning it grows with you without needing to be replaced. And it has to be connected, meaning it lives inside your enterprise ecosystem, not next to it. If any of these 3 is missing, the platform will disappoint you. That's just the reality. If all three are there, you have something worth investing in. So, concretely, what does a platform that hits all three actually look like in features? So, let me get specific. 6 characteristics, and every one of them maps back to something we've talked about today. So, mobile workflows built for real operations, not lab conditions. Embedded business logic, validation, exceptions, and rules that live inside the workflow. Online and offline support, because your warehouse doesn't stop when the Wi Fi flickers. Fast integration with enterprise systems, days and weeks, not months. Flexibility across multiple use cases. One platform that handles inventory, delivery, factory, retail, assets, and more. And control, visibility, and growth potential. You can see what's happening, and you can grow into new capabilities without replacing the foundation. When all 6 are present, you have an actual platform. When even 2 are missing, you have an app pretending to be one. And I want to actually show you what this looks like when it's live in real operations. So let me paint the real picture. Had this slide multiple times, but it just showcases everything very well. So here's what it looks like. On the left, you see the warehouse floor, an operator with a mobile device in their hand, no paperwork, no clipboard, no printed pick lists. Every task is on the screen, every scan is guided, every verification happens on the spot where the item actually is. On-site verification means the problem is caught at the moment, not 4 steps later. On the right, you see the office, supervisor watching operations, manager, whatnot. But they're doing this remotely and in real time. They scans, they can see what's happening across the whole floor without walking anywhere. Real-time data exchange means the ERP is always current, not lagging by a shift, due to batch updates or any of that stuff. And because everything is connected, the ERP's document status is always accurate. There's no reconciliation meeting at the end of the day because there's nothing to reconcile. That's it. That's the picture. One coordinated flow, physical work on one side, digital truth on the other. And there's no gap between them, as you can see. Now, the picture is nice, but the question you're probably asking is, what does this actually mean for the business in dollars? So let me show you what numbers look like. And we've had this one multiple times as well. Very, very nicely interprets as to what the numbers actually look like in practice. So this is not a comparison of software prices. I want to point that out. This is a comparison of total operational costs. So everything a business spends every month to keep inventory accurate. That includes labor, error correction, rework, emergency purchases when the count is wrong, time spent reconciling, all of it. At the top, manual checking. So, spreadsheets, clipboards, physical counts, runs a typical customer around $10,000 a month or 120K a year. If we move to Excel or Google Sheets, and you save some, but theirs are still there. So in this case, we were running about 8,000 a month. A USB barcode scanner, connected to a PC drops it farther to roughly 4,000. A basic barcode app brings it down again to around 2,500. And Cleverance brings that same operational cost down to about $1,000 a month, or 12,000 a year. The delta between the top and the bottom is roughly 90%. Think about that for a moment. That's about $9,000 a month over $100,000 a year in total operational cost savings. Again, that's not because we are the cheapest license. It's because when the process runs cleanly, no errors, no rework, no emergency inventory, the whole cost structure changes. This is a typical result we see with our customers. It's not, it's not like something in a movie. It just happens the way it is when you get rid of all the friction points, I would say. So, all right, you've heard me talk about the platform a lot. So let me show you what Cleverness actually consists of, product by product, so you can see where it fits your business. So Cleverance, it's not just one product. First of all, it's a platform that we build multiple products on. So we have inventory that covers warehouse operations, so like receiving, picking, put away, stock counts, transfers, etc. Store ops is for retail, shop floor, and back of house operations. Delivery ops is for last mile and route delivery. And factory ops is for manufacturing. So WIP tracking, materials, and shop floor flow. And assets covers fixed asset tracking, everything you own that isn't inventory. All of them share the exact same platform, the same integration layer, the same admin, the same security. So when you grow from one use case into 2 or 3, you're not buying a new system, you're expanding what you already have. And that's the whole point, as we were talking about, of scaling properly. And under all of that, the platform has 4 core capabilities that make everything possible. Let me lay them out. So here we have 4 capabilities. There's much more, but we'll just cover these ones. Mobile and connected devices. So the platform runs on smartphones, tablets, and rugged handhelds. You bring your own device story or use enterprise hardware. They both work. You're not locked into like a specific manufacturer, specific device, or whatnot. Barcode and RFID technology, just like we talked about, for identification and data capture matched to the task. Real-time data integration, so with your existing ERP or accounting system. So everything you scan updates the system record immediately, not overnight, real-time. And then customizable workflows. The platform supports the customization of workflows to match your specific business process, not the other way around. These 4 together are what makes automation actually stick. It's the difference between a scanning app and a platform that runs your operations. Again, not for a year, but 5, 10, 20 years down the road without any issues. So, excuse me, how do you actually get started? What's the process from, I'm interested to, we're actually implementing? It's actually 5 simple steps. Let's cover them. So we have a pre-sale brief. You pick a convenient date and share your project details and goals with us. Just a conversation. There's no commitment. Then we join the chat. You get direct communication with a dedicated project manager to align expectations and strategies. Then we do a demo, right? If you're ready to move quickly, we can give you a hands-on demo tailored to your operation, usually within 2 weeks. Then we have a commercial offer, a personalized proposal based on your project scope and timeline, not a generic quote. It's something that's built for you. And finally, project implementation. We start deploying. The first 3 steps cost you nothing. And by the end of them, you'll know exactly whether Cleverance is right for you or not. There's no pressure. It's just clarity. We want to make sure that we fit each other well. We want to provide a solution, not a simple app that will break, as we talked about. Now, before we get to, to the free guide and all that stuff, I want to leave you with one real customer story, because everything I've told you today isn't theory. It's happening right now in customers around the world. And this one, we like to share it. So let me share one from UAE, from Dubai. And this is APMG. They're spare parts e-commerce operations based in Dubai. I've talked about them multiple times. For those of you who've been present before, you already know about it. But for those who are new here, we'll quickly cover them once again. So they're running a warehouse of about 10,000 square meters, roughly 100,000 SKUs with 17 warehouse workers. Now, a little bit more than that. But here's the honest framing on this one. So they already had a custom ERP and it was working well. There was no issues there. It handled their orders, their customers, their finances, all of it. What it didn't do, and honestly what most ERPs don't do, was give them location level visibility inside the warehouse. They knew what they had in aggregate. They didn't know exactly where it was. Their warehouse was split into 2 zones. So you have the front half stored with bulky items and the back half with rows of plastic bins for address storage for smaller parts. And the pain was very specific. Order processing was inefficient. Picking errors were frequent, and searching for products was eating up time. Not because the ERP was broken, but because the warehouse layer of visibility didn't exist. So what we did was add the address storage layer on top of their existing ERP. We didn't replace anything. We introduced mobile computers. In this case, there was Zebra handhelds and Cleverance software to make the operations mobile. So delivery plan documents, order supplier documents, cell placement, and collected orders for shipping. All of that moved from paper and clipboards to the mobile device, integrated cleanly with the ERP they already had. The results, as shown on the slide, are dramatic. Inventory turnover ratio increased 4 times. Their storage area grew by 10,000 square meters, because with address storage, they could actually use the space they had. And staff errors were reduced by 99%. 17 mobile devices in daily use. As I mentioned now, a little bit more. The lesson I want you to take from APMG is you don't have to replace your ERP to get this kind of change. All you have to do is just add the right layer in the right place, running the right processes. All right, we're at the wrap up. So before, if there's any questions, this is the quick PDF that I was talking about. So everyone who registered today will get that free PDF guide. It's essentially just practical resource, not a marketing brochure. It just kind of walks you through the 5 stages we can talk about today, with concrete checkpoints for each stage. And it's the kind of thing you can share with your operations team or your leadership to align on the roadmap. And with that, here's how to reach me directly. Let's go to the last slide here. So you can reach me by phone number, WhatsApp, email. You can, get the Telegram there as well. Everything is there. It's all on the screen. I answer every message personally, whether it's a quick question, an evaluation, demo request, or just a challenge you're wrestling with. Just reach out. I'm happy to help. Again, this is not like a paid consultation or anything like that. Just here for trying to solve your issues. To be honest, want to provide you with a solution that actually works, as we've talked about today, rather than give you something that you're gonna replace in a couple of years. So yeah, I'd rather have a 5-minute honest conversation than sell you the wrong thing. So that's about it. Thank you so much for joining me today. It was actually pretty good on time, but yeah, apologies for the entourage once again. A little bit in a travel situation right now, so a little bit hectic, but hopefully I put my point across, as to what our topic was today. Hopefully it gave some clarification to some of you who might be thinking, what application do we choose from in the process of evaluating different solutions, or just a simple app that we talked about. And hopefully that gave you some ideas, to actually think a little bit more deeper in a different direction, rather than just getting a simple barcoding app that is going to break in a year, because it doesn't handle a lot of things. Anyways, everything we talked about, I'm rambling on now. That's about it. Thank you so much for joining me today. Once again, reach out to me if you have any questions, if you just want to have a conversation, if you have an issue that you would like to fix in your operations. I'll be very glad to hear from you and to discuss your issues directly. So everything was on the screen. Once again, thank you all for joining me today, and catch you on the next one. All right. Thank you. Bye.